Hey, Twee and Matt here, and today we're going to be going over some of the differences between living in Vietnam versus living in America. And well, a lot of the videos you hear mostly from me, but since my wife has lived in Vietnam much longer than me and also lived in America, well, much longer than I've ever lived in Vietnam, I thought I would get some of her insights as well. She's a bit shy, but I think she's going to do a great job.
What side are in there?
We can cut. Huh?
What side in there? No side. I just don't know comfortable what to do.
That's what's shy. So the way this is going to work is we both wrote down 5 differences, and I do not know what she wrote down, and she does not know what I wrote down. So we will see if any of it overlaps, and we'll just kind of have a conversation about it. So first off, what do you think is your first difference between living in Vietnam and living in America?
The first thing,
Yes. It's okay.
I know in Vietnam, people they have the home, so you can live in there and you can sell food.
Yeah.
Look like home and restaurant.
Yeah, no, that is a
Yeah.
big difference. I actually kind of put that in my list later, but that does make sense. Like in Vietnam, you have a restaurant or a business that you're able to work outside of your house, and within America, at least in the places that I've lived in America, a lot of times you have different zoning laws, so you're not able to do some of the same stuff you're able to do there.
Yeah.
But it also allows you to kind of live at home, to me, and like work.
An open restaurant.
Yeah, exactly. Have a little bit more freedom and be able to, work from home, but do so actually selling out to the community. So it's pretty interesting, and I do enjoy that about Vietnam.
Okay.
Do you have
So
any
now
more to
you.
add? Okay, me, okay. One thing, or my first thing difference, is the driving culture in Vietnam is very different than driving in America. And I don't just mean that in the way that driving in Vietnam is terrifying, because there's so many people on the road, and there's not many rules, and you're on a moped most of the time. Or even if you're in a car, a lot of times the seatbelt laws are very relaxed. So it's a little bit scary coming from America, but that's not necessarily just what I mean. I also mean that in America, a lot of times we have kind of a more developed road system, and things are further and further apart. So instead of driving mopeds most of the time, like there's cars all over the road, and a lot of times you have to drive further back and forth between somewhere. Like in Vietnam, it's a very close city, and you can find everything everywhere, where at least where we live in Tennessee, things are just like you have to drive 2 or 3 miles down the road to maybe get to the nearest store. So
Right.
that's a little bit different, just to be on the road. And I feel like that's somewhat of a different culture. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's a different thing. Okay, number 2 for you.
Number 2 for me, I see when the kid in America, they in the car they have car seat,
Yeah,
but in Vietnam
yeah, no.
they don't have car seat.
So that kind of
Yeah.
it's,
Feel danger.
yeah, it's nerving.
Yeah.
It's a little scary.
Usually you hold the baby in the car,
Yeah.
but in America illegal.
I just had to kind of breathe and hope that everything worked out.
And inside you nervous.
I was nervous a lot of different
Me
times.
too.
But that being said, for the vast majority of history in America, we didn't have car seat laws, and we didn't even have that kind of stuff either. But yeah, that was definitely nervous for me.
How about you?
Okay,
The third-
my second.
No. Oh,
I'm
you
no,
second now?
Yeah.
I think you.
That was your second, I think.
Okay, now you third.
No, now it's my second. You went first. My second is that there is a very ordered family. So what I mean by that is there's like a clear ranking of family members within just like brothers and sisters
Oh.
and aunts and uncles. Like in America, we pretty much just call everybody like, oh, this is my aunt.
And
like,
uncle.
Yeah, this is my Aunt Janice. It doesn't matter which side of the family it's coming from, or like their age differences and which order they are in the family. Also, in America, you might have, or I do, I have an older brother and 2 older sisters. So when I was younger, I kind of got, bossed around-ish and picked on, but I was somewhat on equal standing. It wasn't like, I had to like respect your older brother. But in Vietnam, it's very much like your older brother's not wrong or your older sister's not wrong. You're wrong. It doesn't matter if you're right. Do you kind of get that impression as well? Okay, so number 3 for you? Is that right?
Yeah. Number 3. Number 3, I thinking. Okay, in US,
Yes.
people, family, something friendly. They can when they have party or they have something, you can come and say hi them and you heard, or you can give gift. But in Vietnam, they don't have.
Really, they're not.
No.
Yeah.
They just ask, how are you, and talking history something and done. But in here, they show friendly.
Yeah.
And sweet.
The thing about America, and everywhere can be somewhat diverse. I have like a very affectionate family, even affectionate, like somewhat distant, like second and third cousins and whatever. Italian family growing up, but yeah, you're right. I think in Vietnam it was interesting for me.
Sometimes we say hi. They okay. They look at.
Yeah. Well,
but I don't know.
I read later. I've been to Vietnam so many times. I've lived in Vietnam 7 months and one time, and 3 months another, and whatever. I've been there like 10 times. But I read they're like, never hug an older woman unless you're supposed to, unless they ask you to. And I'm like, I've hugged like everybody I meet. I'm like, hey, and I'll hug them. And so I don't know if that's ever made anybody super uncomfortable, but most people tend to at least act like they like me. So maybe they just realize that I'm from a different culture and they don't really care. Okay, so number 3 for me is that the family unit is a lot closer in some ways. And what I mean by that, like at least like the immediate family, I feel like in America, when you grow up, and things have kind of changed, based upon economy and things of that nature. But typically you become 18, the kid goes away to college. Generally speaking, it's more expected that, okay, now the kid's going to live out on their own, and they're not going to live back with the family, maybe temporarily, but the idea is like, okay, you're 18 and you're somewhat not my full-on responsibility, especially financially. But in Vietnam, it's very different. It's like the family is 100% encouraged to stay together, and either they can work separate businesses or work for the family business. But like, especially if you're a son, like, you're expected to, even with your wife and kids and whatever, you're expected to live together. So you have generations living together in the same house. You have grandparents and parents and your kids and their kids, and they're all living together, which to me is really smart, because I feel like, they're able to keep the wealth in the family, and they're able to grow it and share it more, and it's not like individualistic. It's more like, okay, let's come together and better our family, and not just better yourself.
That's different in America, right?
Yeah, in America, it's more like,
it's like you go up 18, you can get out of the house.
Right, but it's kind of harder in America, especially now. Like, the cost of living is so expensive that I think it would be smarter if we had that mentality of like, okay, we're bettering our family's fortune, and not necessarily just bettering our individual fortune. All right, you're number 4. Number 4.
Number 4. I'm right here the same with you, but I have new thinking.
Oh, you look at my list.
No, I the same thing with you because we talk about the car in Vietnam.
Yeah.
But number 4, I'm thinking about people are doing when they go up, and I see the girl come live with the guy.
Yeah, like
in the family.
Yeah.
But in Vietnam, I don't have.
Well, in Vietnam,
you like a boyfriend, girlfriend, but they can come and sleep with.
Oh, you're talking about if you can do if you're married, but not if you're boyfriend, girlfriend. Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
Or sometimes people they don't want to get married. They can stay together, but usually they're not at home.
Yeah.
They go out.
Right. Vietnam. Yeah, it's definitely probably more conservative in that way. Like, it's definitely, it's like, hey, you shouldn't do certain stuff until you're married, and whether that's good or bad in certain ways, there's probably pros and cons to both. But yeah, that particular version of Prudence, maybe,
Yeah.
has kind of went out of fashion in America, but it's still around in Vietnam. All right, that's
Now
good.
you.
Okay.
Number 4.
Number 4 for me is I feel like Vietnam, it's partially to do a little bit with the availability to actually like have their business at home a lot of times. And not everybody's situation's the same. There's, still a lot of poor people in Vietnam who aren't able to have a business, and they work a lot. They work really hard.
Yeah, right.
But generally speaking, I feel like the culture's work-life balance is a lot better than in America. Like, I feel like, for example, my nephew had a party on his 1-year-old party, which is like a big deal there. He had it on a Thursday at 10 in the morning, and there was a huge group of people. They were all drinking together, having fun, and like that would never happen here because we'd have a scheduled regimen.
Right.
It'd be like, you're working, I can't make it for 10 in the morning. Are you kidding? There it was like, yeah, I'll take a break and come drink and have a good time. And so I feel like they kind of have a little bit more of a relaxation when they work hard when they're working, but they're not afraid to take breaks whenever, and it's not as regimented. It's not like, hey, if you're working for this company, you got to be here at this time, or you got to go to your job every day at this particular time. Generally speaking, it's a little bit more like, hey, I got to take off for a couple hours. And if it's a family thing or a party or whatever the case is, you're able and allowed to do so. Does that make sense? Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's my number 4. Number 5, your final one. What do you got?
Number 5, I have 2. But I don't know what I say.
You have 2?
Yeah.
I'll make it 5 and 6 and just do them both right now.
Okay, I have one more. Number 5, I have the kid in Vietnam. I don't know. In America, about 21 years old, so you can drink wine or beer.
Oh, yeah.
But in Vietnam, I'm thinking 14, 15,
Yeah.
16.
Yeah, it doesn't much
Yeah.
matter. I don't even know what the law is,
Yeah.
if there is a law, but it's not enforced at all.
Yeah, it's danger.
Yeah. Which, granted, in America, there's still 14, 15-year-olds that do wind up sneaking away and drinking, but it's not necessarily like openly socially acceptable. But like, yeah, you could walk into a restaurant and get a beer or whatever. It doesn't matter the age. Or if
They're
you're
not ask you how are you.
Yeah. And even at parties, like, they'll be like, oh, hey, how's it going? How old are you now? 13?
Come
You should have a
here."
beer. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that is different. Yeah, it's really interesting in a way.
No, not interesting. It's a danger.
Okay, well, I think it's kind of cool. Anyways.
Not cool.
If I was 13 in Vietnam, I would think it was awesome.
You.
If I was 13.
Number 5.
Okay, 5. Okay, number 5. This kind of goes along with the work-life balance. I feel like Vietnam, they're a little bit closer to their friends and just the community in general. I don't feel like in America, I feel like since our work-life balance is so regimented, we have our family that we're come home to or whatever, but most of the time we don't necessarily just go visit our friends as often, or at least maybe I don't just go out and say, oh, I'm just going to go visit my friend on a whatever and have a lot of close relationships. I'm able to like talk to my friends and I might play a video game or something to be able to communicate. But it's not like I'm going to just get together with my friends on a normal basis because, hey, they have to work, I have to work, I have a family, they have families. So it's very different. It's like you have to set up a special occasion, where in Vietnam, it's like, oh, I'm going to go see our neighbor today or whatever the case is, or a friend. And, oh, yeah, we're having coffee today. And that just happens more often than not. Like, I know my father-in-law, he'll just sit next thing, I'm like, oh, where's Ba? And they'll be like, oh, he went and saw a friend and drank some tea. So it's just something that I'm not saying nobody in America lives that way, but I feel like more people in Vietnam live that way.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Right.
All right. You got a bonus. Number 6. Here it comes.
Okay. Special holiday in America.
Okay.
And Christmas.
Yes. Okay.
Like Vietnam, China Lunar New
Yeah.
Year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Special Christmas here you can have gift, but
Yeah.
New Year in Vietnam you look like you have envelope, have lucky money in there.
Yeah. Christmas you know, it's acknowledged as a holiday. Some people set up like a Christmas tree or some lights. It's very few gifts exchange. It's not like America where it's like a month and a half of, like, as soon as Thanksgiving's over, it's like Christmas songs and everything. And so yeah, that you're right on that. But the Lunar New Year is like you're saying, it's a lot more similar to Christmas. It's like a 3-day event, and you know, there's different parties, there's different things that people do. People go out, they're off work, and they give money. So they're not giving gifts like we do, but they're like giving a lot of money. So some kids walk away, and they're like, "Oh, here's your lucky money," and kids walk away with like a lot. So that's super cool. So they kind of get to buy what they want with it. But this was a little bit different type of video than we usually make. Drop in the comment section below and let us know if you've enjoyed it. And also hit that like button. And if you think she did as great as I think she did, then maybe consider subscribing.
You do right.
Oh, well. Thank you. Until next time, peace.